Εδώ λοιπόν στο TV War του Mad και του Metal Hammer στα παρασκήνια του Rocking Athens Festival. Λίγη ώρα πριν οι Heaven and Hell βγουν στη σκηνή, έχουμε για ακόμα μια φορά την τιμή να μιλάμε με τον Ronnie James Dio, τη φωνή αυτής της μουσικής. Hello Ronnie, welcome to Greece once again.
Thank you so much. Tikanis Mad TV.
We're fine, thank you. Well, Ronnie, some months ago you released a new album from Heaven and Hell, The Devil You Know, and its success was massive once again. It seems that you have the Midas touch. Everything you touch turns to gold. I mean, how important was for you this album to enjoy success?
Well, we didn't start doing this with doing an album in mind. It started with the album called Black Sabbath, The Dio Years. And we wrote 3 songs and had no plans to do any more than that, just to write the songs so that the people who bought the album would have something more than just songs, that live things and things they had heard before. We thought that was important, for the band. And from there, someone suggested a while afterward that maybe you'd like to tour with it. Well, we had time to do that, so we said okay, and so we did, and just only 9 shows. And it stopped with the show we did at Radio City Music Hall, which became a DVD and, all the other things that happened. And then that was it. And then someone else suggested, not in the band, but management or an agency, well, people would like to see you tour more. So would you like to go to Europe? So we said, okay. So we did a European tour, and that was it. And then they said, well, how about Australia and Japan? We went, okay, so we went to Australia and Japan, and the same thing going back to Europe again, and the same thing with doing an American tour. But each time, we didn't really have plans to carry on and do any much more than that. Then after all the touring was finished, someone said, well, maybe you should do an album. And so we thought about that and said, yeah, I think it makes sense. So it wasn't something that was premeditated, that we had thought about from the beginning. We were going to do this and this and this and then do an album. So doing the album was important for us because it was the final step for what we had tried to accomplish. And I think what we tried to accomplish is to not only to enjoy ourselves, but to, I think, keep the people happy who had supported us all those years when it was the Dio years more than anything else. And I think it made us realize how important it was for us to tour again together, how much desire there was for people out there in the world who wanted to see this band play again and to hear those songs again. So we felt it was important for whatever legacy we have to do an album. And so it was important for us that it was successful, but we never went into anything we did thinking that worried that, we better be good, this better be a successful album. I think that we always knew that whatever we were going to do was going to work very well, because I've known certainly in all the Dio years that I've played just with my own band, how many people always come up and said, it would be great if you got back together with Tony and Geezer and et cetera, et cetera. So I knew it was going to be important, and I thought it would be successful. That what was needed was to have a good album. And that was the important thing. So it was important for us for it to be successful, but it was more important for us to play together and to take it very slowly, because we have a history of breaking up so many times. And I think that was because we planned too far ahead. If you plan 2 years in advance, usually something happens after 6 months when someone says, no, I'm not going to do that now. And now you've destroyed all the things you started, and you've destroyed the band one more time, and everything becomes political and very stupid. So that's why this time we went very, very slowly. Well, we'll think about maybe doing a tour. We'll think about doing another tour. We'll think about doing an album. And each time when we made the decision, we knew it was the right one because we committed ourselves just to that, not to something that was going to be so far in the future. So I hope you get something from that. I'm sorry I talked so long about it, but I think there needed to be history behind the answer to the question.
Well, considering my own experience by listening to your albums with Rainbow, with Sabbath, your solo albums, I would say that this is not just entertainment, as you said before, but is life-altering. Do you sometimes feel responsible for the lives of the people that listen to your music?
I always feel responsible for it. Always, always, always. And that, I think, is what has made my personal fans so strong about me, because I try to give to them all the time. I know how important they are to me. Without them, I'd be nothing. So I always take the time to sign their autographs, to talk to them, and I've made so many friends in my life who were started as fans, who have ended up being some of my best friends. because I usually find that Dio fans are very bright people. They have to be smart enough to try to understand what I'm trying to write, because I don't write songs usually that are about. I don't anyway. I love you, baby. I don't do things like that. I try to do things that make people think a little bit more, to make the song their song. So I don't point directly to what I'm saying. I point to what I think how they can make the song theirs. An example is with Rainbow in the Dark, for example. If I talk to 10 people.
Is it true that you didn't like the song in the first place?
I didn't know. I wanted to tear it up. I wanted to get rid of it. And to this day, it's still okay with me if they get rid of it. I don't really care. I just felt it was a bit too poppy for me. But it's a good thing we did it, because it certainly touched a lot of people. And I think at that time I was writing about myself, because to me, Rainbow in the Dark was someone who was had to be pushed aside and pushed away. Someone who had so much potential, who had so much opportunity to be something, but wasn't given that opportunity by the horrible people in this world. And I felt at that time that maybe I was a rainbow in the dark. Maybe not so much with the music, but maybe in my personal life. And my point was that if I speak to 10 people, maybe only one of them knows what I was really talking about when I wrote that song. And the other 9 people have completely different ideas about it. And I say, well, when they say to me, no, it's about this, and I go, you're right. And the next one says, and it's about this, and it's completely different. You're right. And they're right because they've made it their own song, and that's what I've always tried to do. So I found the Dio fans were always very bright, who they really cared, and to let them down to me was just the most horrible thing I could ever do. So all the fans I have, and I have so many fans in Greece too. I mean, because I think once again, being Italian, we probably have a little bit more simpatico, being neighbors anyway. And I think that an Italian-Greek attitude is a little bit the same. So I've always been very, very blessed for people who really have given me a lot of love, especially in Greece, but all over the world. It's that the fans mean something to me. I'm not a liar. I'm not a false person. I'm not a phony person. I could never be that. So I take all the time I can to kiss their babies, and to hug them, and to shake their hands, and to sign things for them, and kiss the girls. Not because I'm trying to make time with them or anything, but because it's my way of showing affection for people who have been so good to me, who have made my life so easy. Without them, who knows what I would be. So they are the most important thing to me, the fans. But without them, I really would be, probably a plumber right now, or an electrician or something. I don't know.
This is very important for us, the fans, to know that you are such an easygoing, such a respectful man towards your fans. It's very important for us to know, and for the fans out there to realize this. And you say this every time, and I know from my own experience that you sign the autographs and you talk to each other in person, and this is really great. I mean, if there is such a thing as a karma, you're one step to nirvana.
Well, it's your karma. I believe very much in karma. I really do. And you get what you give, always. So I try to give what they give me. So, together we're a great team. Fans and me are a great team. And they are my friends. At the end of the day, they are my friends.
Okay, so how was it working with Geezer and Tony again in the studio? I mean, were there any quarrels about the direction of the new album?
We've honestly never ever had any quarrels. It must seem as though, to everyone who doesn't know what goes on the inside, that every time we broke up we would have fights and punch each other and swear at each other. I can't remember it's been now since 1979, so that's was it 30 years? I can't remember ever a cross word being said amongst any of us at all. No one ever shouted at anyone. We just broke up because in the early days, because some people did too many drugs and believed too many idiots. And that's not me, by the way, because I'm not a drug guy. But I'm not pointing fingers at anyone else. Perhaps I was to blame as much as anyone else was in some way. But we never had a problem that way. So each time we got back together again, we never ever thought that it was any different than we had seen each other yesterday. First time, 10 years, we haven't even spoken to each other in 10 years. We saw each other the next 10 years later. Hey, Tony, hey, Geese, just like we had, and same, this time was 12 years. Exactly the same. So we never have any problems with that. As far as direction goes, Tony and I especially have a real affinity to each other, a real simpatico as far as writing goes. We write so easily together. As I mentioned before, when we did the Dio album, the Dio Years album,